Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good morning Instagram fam, friends and followers of As-Safi. Thank you for joining me for another installment of our running series Revert Reflections. And we have been for the last few weeks speaking under the theme of what sets Islam apart from other faiths. And this week specifically, we have been talking about the Islamic perspective on celebrating and observing the holidays of other faiths, or the Islamic perspective on holidays generally, and how Islam differs from other faiths in terms of its perspective and view on holidays. Yesterday, we learned that in Islam, all holidays and festivals are prohibited, except those expressly permitted and prescribed by Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today, the question that we want to address is that ruling specific to religious holidays, or does it encompass non-religious holidays? And the reason why we want to answer this question or respond to this question is because there is a common misconception amongst Muslims, especially those who live in the West and live in an environment where they are constantly exposed to the holidays of the non-Muslims. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. They're commonly exposed and kind of, wrapped up. They get wrapped up and put in a position where they may feel compelled to celebrate and to observe the holidays of the non-Muslims. And one of the middle courses that some Muslims have sought to take is the middle course of, we don't celebrate their religious holidays, but we do celebrate their non-religious holidays. And so the misconception that pervades is that the prohibition is exclusive to religious holidays and does not encompass holidays which have no religious significance. Like, for example, birthdays, Mother and Father's Day, Independence Day, Thanksgiving, etc. These are all considered non-religious holidays, innocuous in that sense, and therefore there's no harm, according to many lay Muslims, in celebrating these holidays. So this is the question that we want to answer. Is this in fact true? And the fact of the matter is, brothers and sisters, is that the ruling of the prohibition of holidays is an absolute one, and it encompasses all holidays, all non-Islamic holidays, whether religious or non-religious. And this is supported by the hadith that we mentioned yesterday, the hadith of Anas radiallahu anhu, in which he mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ, he came to Al-Madinah and he found them celebrating two holidays. And those holidays had nothing to do with religion. When the Prophet asked them specifically, what are these 2 days that I find you celebrating? They said, these are 2 days that we used to celebrate in Jahiliyyah. They didn't say this had something to do with religion. It had some type of religious import. It's just 2 days that we celebrate. We observe them as holidays, and there was no religious significance to those days. And in spite of this, the Prophet ﷺ told them that they had to abandon those two holidays and embrace the two holidays that had been given to them by Islam instead. And so this is a clear indication from the Prophet ﷺ that all holidays are not permitted in Islam except those expressly prescribed and legislated in Islam, whether those holidays have some type of religious significance or not. So the ruling has nothing to do with religious significance or not, although if the holiday had some type of religious significance, it would become even more prohibited because of that religious significance. Now, before we close, brothers and sisters, I want you to consider a few other things that should make it clear to us as thinking Muslims that we should not be celebrating the holidays that are not a part of our faith. I want you to consider these things because it's very important for us to be thinking Muslims. And when I say thinking Muslims, I mean that we think in a way which is guided by the teachings of our faith. So I want you to consider that we as Muslims are supposed to be distinct and distinguished from the people of other faiths. And the fundamental teaching on this issue, we've mentioned it repeatedly, comes to us from the surah, the chapter of the Quran entitled Al-Kafirun, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet to say, and by extension the believers to say, "O you disbelievers, I do not worship what you worship, and you do not worship what I worship. I don't worship the way you worship, and you don't worship the way I worship. To you, or you have your religion and I have mine." The Prophet was told to say this. By extension, the believers have been told to say this. And so that means that if there's something which is a distinguishing element of the faith of others, we should be the furthest from that, because we want to distinguish ourselves from them. We don't want to be seen as resembling them, or not, or failing to distinguish ourselves from them after Allah has expressly told us to distinguish ourselves. And one of the single most distinguishing features or characteristics of any faith is its festivals and holidays. And so the last thing a Muslim should do is observe a festival or holiday which would blur the lines of distinction between himself or herself and the people of other faiths, after Allah said, "Oh, Muslims, declare that you're different from them, that you have your own faith and they have their own faith." Another thing that we should consider as thinking Muslims is that non-Muslim holidays, whether religious or not, are exclusive to them. And Muslims are not permitted to imitate the non-believers in matters which are exclusive to them, which are marks and symbols of their faith and their values and what they believe in and what they practice. As the Prophet said in the hadith, وَمَنْ تَشَبَّهَ بِقَوْمٍ فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ. Whoever resembles a people, imitates a people in that which is exclusive to them, then he is one of them. If we imitate the Christians in something which is exclusively Christian, specifically Christian, then we become Christians. And that doesn't mean that we become non-Muslims, we apostate. But basically the Prophet this is a very emphatic way of saying that we've done something which violates the teachings of our religion. That's basically what the Prophet is saying in essence. It doesn't mean that if a person, for example, celebrated Thanksgiving, they turn in their Muslim card. That's not what I'm saying. But what the Prophet is saying is emphatically saying, hey, Muslims should not be doing this, because by resembling them in something specific to them, you are joining their ranks symbolically, even if you're not actually joining their ranks. Another thing that we have to consider is when we celebrate these holidays, brothers and sisters, and this is very important, when we celebrate these holidays, it necessitates endorsing their origins and connotations. Let me repeat that. That when we celebrate these non-Muslim holidays, what does that necessitate? It necessitates endorsing their origins and connotations. All of these holidays, they have meanings. They have messages that they convey. They have origins that they are founded in. And when you celebrate the holiday, you're basically saying that, yeah, I support this. I agree with this, to the point that I am marking the day that is affiliated or associated with the origin of this holiday, or the hidden meaning in this holiday. The true origins of these holidays, what are they? We need to know that. If we're going to celebrate a holiday, we need to know what is the origin of it. What does it stand for? What is the meaning and message that it's trying to convey, the holiday? The true origins of these holidays often is, for example, the true origins of these holidays, sometimes it's lies against Allah. That's the origin of it. Like, for example, Christmas. The origin of it. Look at what it stands for. It's a lie against Allah. Or sometimes the true origin of a holiday, one of their holidays, is belief in the occult instead of Allah, like Halloween. And sometimes the true origin of these holidays are acts of genocide and mass murder, like Thanksgiving. And if a Muslim just does some very basic research, they'll see exactly what I'm talking about. What are the origins of Christmas? A lie against Allah, or lies, I should say, against Allah. What's the origin of Halloween? It's a belief in the occult instead of Allah. What's the origin of Thanksgiving? If you really do your research and dig, it's not the pilgrims coming and having a nice meal with the Indians after the harvest. That's not what it is. It's actually celebrating the genocide and mass murder of an Indian tribe. Look into it, brothers and sisters. And when we celebrate these holidays with these connotations that run counter to everything we believe in, we have to ask ourselves, should we be doing this? Should we be celebrating mass murder? Should we be celebrating lies against Allah? Should we be celebrating a belief in the occult instead of Allah? We have to reflect upon these things. We have to be thinking people. We just can't be part of the herd. Everybody's doing it. We live in America. We need to, we need to go along to get along. We can't be those people because Allah is telling us, and even the Prophet, when he told Mu'adh, when he was sending him to Yemen, he said, "Ittaqillaha haythuma kunt." He said, fear Allah wherever you may be, meaning what? Be a Muslim. Wherever you are, you can never be the Muslim who considers it okay that when in Rome, we do as the Romans do. No, he says your Islam has to travel. Wherever you are, be a Muslim. Be uniquely Muslim. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. Oh, say, oh, you disbelievers, لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ. I don't worship what you worship. وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ. And you don't worship what I worship. لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينِ. You have your religion and I have mine. Reflect upon it. Think, brothers and sisters, and remember why we're having these discussions. Because one of the things that's holding us back, one of the reasons why we're not progressing in Islam is because we continue to have one foot in other faiths and other philosophies and other ideologies and one foot in Islam. We got to get both feet in Islam so we can what? We can walk on this path and do the Muslim thing and continue to progress and get better and closer to Allah. So that when we meet Allah and we achieve salvation, we achieve His approval, we achieve His forgiveness and pardon, and most importantly, we achieve His paradise. May Allah make us from those people. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll close this discussion tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. Until then, brothers and sisters, may Allah bless your houses, bless your spouses, bless your sources of income and revenue. Bless you and make you blessed wherever you may be. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.